other portions of the Bible, or even history. Now, as we go through Revelation, when we see a symbol, we have to ask, what does this symbol represent? It says one thing, but it really means something else. I'm going to propose to you that Revelation was written as kind of a code, and the symbols were these codes. And a Christian that would read this book would kind of understand what the codes meant, but anyone else, in particular a Roman, that was not familiar with the Christian faith, wouldn't really know what this book was talking about. And we'll see later that if a Roman were to read the book, if it didn't have symbols, and he read the book, and he saw what it says, he would be pretty upset. Probably a Christian that had this book might be persecuted because of that. Revelation 1:19, Jesus tells John to write down what he sees. Now in chapters 2 and 3, we have what Jesus tells John to write to the seven churches in Asia. And we don't really have time to cover that this morning, but I would recommend that to go back and read that and think about, if Jesus were to write us a letter at Newark, at this church, what might he say to us? Now the 4th chapter of Revelation is where the story really begins. The first 3 chapters are kind of introduction, and chapter 4 is where we get started. And in Revelation 4, John is in heaven, and he's before the throne of God, and John sees God's throne is surrounded by 24 thrones with 24 elders. And we're not told who the 24 elders are, but I'm going to propose that they could represent the 12 tribes of Israel and the 12 apostles. That's up to debate. John sees 4 living creatures, one like a lion, one like an ox, one with the face of a man, and one like a flying eagle. And these living creatures are constantly saying, "Holy, holy, holy is the Lord Almighty, who was and is to come." And there's lightning and thunder. In Revelation 4:5, John sees blazing lamps. And the letter tells us the blazing lamps are the 7 spirits of God. And I propose that these 7 lamps represent the Holy Spirit. So the Holy Spirit is in heaven. Revelation 5:11 tells us the throne is surrounded by thousands and thousands of angels, and they're praising God. In Revelation 5:13, John says he hears every creature in heaven and on earth and under the sea and on the sea and all that's in them singing praises to the Lamb. And all of this John sees, and we also see, the awesome power and might of God. All through the letter, we see the awesome power and total control of God. God is powerful. He is in control. Now, a Christian living during this time period, during the intense Roman persecution, would see all of the chaos and the mayhem, and he would think that the church was doomed. I mean, how could the church possibly overcome the great and mighty and powerful Roman Empire? But then after reading this letter, a Christian would see that God is in total control, and that neither the Roman Empire nor Satan are a match for God. A Christian reading this letter would be greatly comforted from what he read. And chapter 5 is where the action begins. Now, earlier in the communion, we saw there was no one that was found worthy to open the scroll. That was from Revelation 5. But then Jesus was able to open the scroll. And then Jesus opens the first 4 seals on the scroll. And we have 4 horsemen revealed. And the first horseman's on a white horse, and he has a bow, and he goes out to conquer. The second horseman's on a red horse, and he has a large sword, and he goes out to take away peace. The third horseman's on a black horse, and he has scales. The fourth is on a pale horse, and this represents death and Hades, and he has the power of the fourth of the earth. Now, these 4 horsemen are symbols again. So when we see a symbol, we have to ask, what does it represent? Well, who are these 4 horsemen? Some might say these 4 horsemen are controlled by Satan. But where are we? We're in the throne of God. And where do they get their power from? They get it from God. These 4 horsemen are God's angels. They're God's, to do God's bidding. They're not Satan's agents. Satan hasn't been introduced yet. We'll get to him later. Okay. So these 4 horsemen represent God's tools to achieve his ends to control nations. Did God ever control nations in the Old Testament? No. He did it many times. Especially with the Israelites. The Israelites would forsake God, and God would send someone to harass them. He'd send the Philistines or the Midianites, and then they would repent, they would cry out, God would come and he would rescue them. This happened over and over again. That was God using his 4 horsemen. So the first 4 seals are 4 horsemen, and they represent God's power to control the affairs of men. We come to the 5th seal, And that's in Revelation 6:9. And John sees under the altar the souls of those who have been slain because of the word of God and the testimony they have maintained. And they ask in a loud voice, "How long, sovereign Lord, holy and true, until you judge the inhabitants of the earth and avenge our blood?" Now you might want to mark Revelation 6:9 as that is a key verse. The whole letter was written to answer this question. Now picture, if you will, that we see the first four seals, and we see these first four horsemen, and we see God's power to control the affairs of men. And then we see these the martyrs ask, how long until their blood is avenged? If we kind of read between the lines, the martyrs seem to be saying, God, we saw your great and awesome power. Why don't you use it? When are you going to avenge our blood? You have the power to do it. Why don't you do it? And God's answer to them is very interesting. He says, take a white robe and wait until more are martyred. How could God allow this persecution to continue? He has the power to stop it, but yet he doesn't. And the martyrs are told to take a robe and wait, a white robe and wait. The worst thing that can happen to a Christian is not death. God knows this. God has a purpose in allowing the persecution to continue. Was the church stronger or weaker after the Roman persecution? Stronger. God has a plan. One of the reasons the early church grew so fast and so big was that people were willing to go to their death for their faith. And people saw this. Tertullian, the historian, said, the blood of the martyrs is the seed of the church. I'll take a little issue with that. I would say Jesus is the seed of the church, and the Christians were maybe the bees that help spread the seeds. So the fifth seal is the martyrs and the question of the martyrs. Then we get to the sixth seal. In the sixth seal, there's a great earthquake. The sun is turned black, the moon is turned blood red, stars fall from the sky recedes, mountain and islands are removed. Have kings, princes, generals, rich, slaves, every free man. They say that they want rocks to fall down on them to hide them from God and from his wrath. It says the day of God's wrath is coming. What does this sound look like? It's kind of like the end of the world, huh? No, this is not the end of the world. Every one of these expressions is found in the Old Testament. And for example, in Isaiah 13:10, it says, the rising sun will be darkened. In Isaiah 13:13, it says, the earth will shake. In Isaiah, these are pictures that are used to describe the fall of Babylon. In Hosea 10:8, it says, people are crying for mountains to fall on them, just like it said in Revelation. And this is talking, and Hosea is talking about the fall of Samaria. In Joel 2, it says, the sun will be darkened, the earth will shake, the moon turn to blood. And in Joel is talking about the fall of Judah. So every one of these cases is talking about the fall of a nation, not the end of the world. So Revelation here in this passage is talking about the fall of a nation. Another nation is about to fall. It's not talking about the end of the world. Now between the sixth and seventh seals we have an interlude. And God says he wants to put his seal or his mark on 144,000 of his servants, 12,000 from each of the 12 tribes of Israel. I don't really have time to go into that, the 144,000 this morning. But I'm going to propose that this represents the Christians that are on the earth, not in heaven, on the earth, they're going to be martyred. Now, someone reading this letter would see what happens after a Christian is martyred for following God. And he would see that martyrs are in God's throne room and they are praising God, and God is taking care of them. Revelation 7:16 says, never again